Hello, everyone. We are here as LightBringers to talk with Shirl Henry about her journey to divine love. I'm Lorraine Borchers. I live in Bend, Oregon, and it is actually Monday, February 22nd. With me are two friends, and of course, Shirl is a friend as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yvonne, and I'm from Central Pennsylvania, and I'm very excited to be here today to listen to the beautiful story of my sister, Shirley. I don't think of her as a Shirl. She's always been a Shirley to me. So I'm very excited to be here today.
Hello, I'm Beth and I live in Lincolnshire, but I live in the UK, so a little bit further away from everybody else. Welcome, Shirl. I'm looking forward to your story. But before we start, shall we pray?
Let's do that. Thank you, Beth.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for the many blessings you bring to us all. We thank you for our beautiful world. And today here in the UK, it's a beautiful spring day and the birds have started to sing. So summer won't be far away. Bless Shirl as she shares her faith journey, which we're all looking forward to. We love you, dear Lord. Thank you. Amen.
Beautiful way to get us started, Beth. So, Shirl, whenever you're ready, please go ahead and start. We are excited to have you with us and really interested to hear your story.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I have enjoyed listening to everyone else's stories, and I think it's just so important. It's been such an honor. I do feel like I want to disclose on the recording also that I have a 14-year-old black lab who snores sometimes quite loudly beside me. So just want to put that out there. I do have a writing that I came up with and decided to divide things into 3 different areas. A quick overview of my life and background, my faith journey in childhood, and an awakening and how I got to divine love. So that is where I'll start. As I read over my notes for the meeting, I saw that a lot of the story was about my mother. And I thought about it and I prayed about it, and I just feel that she really is a big part of my faith journey. Her and my father both. I feel that it's the biggest gift they gave me was my faith. When you're a kid, you just don't think about those things. I wanted a pony, I wanted a swimming pool. That wasn't important to me. But as I get older, I see how grateful I am for that. So I'm Shirl Henry. I live in Central Pennsylvania. I grew up about an hour from here, also in Central Pennsylvania. My mother grew up in the Alsace-Lorraine region of France during World War II, near the German border. My father, who grew up in Pennsylvania, served in the Army during World War II, and that's where they met. So he brought my mother back here to Pennsylvania, where they raised 5 children, and I'm the youngest of those 5 children. I grew up in a small town. It was just a perfect place to grow up. It was one of those towns where the kids all ran outside in the morning, played all day, and before it got dark, you ran home and had dinner. It was just a beautiful place to grow up. I always felt very loved. I always felt that my parents loved us. And that also too has been a great gift, I think, in my life. It was not perfect. We were not wealthy at all. In fact, we grew up in a very rural, small town where at the time, I don't think I knew I was poor. We just had all we needed. And the love, I think, covered whatever we didn't need or didn't have. I grew up and attended Penn State University and graduated with a degree in mathematics. And that's where I met my husband, Brian. And we got married, and we have raised 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. I now have 2 wonderful son-in-laws, 3 grandchildren, and a 4th on the way in June. So that has been a blessing, watching our family grow. I did stay home for 15 years with my children. That's something that I always hoped to do. We made a lot of sacrifices to be able to do that, but it was a great shining spot in my life. When my youngest was in kindergarten, I started working in the public schools here in our area. And I worked with children from kindergarten age up through high school and loved every minute of that. I did then move to Penn State University, where I am now, and I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary in January. Penn State is a land grant university and has 21 campuses around the state of Pennsylvania. And so I kind of serve as a liaison between the main campus where I'm at and the 21 campuses around the state. And my focus is student records. And so, you know, people say, what do you do all day? And I kind of solve puzzles and just solve problems all day. That's kind of what I do, and I love it. And I love the people that I work with. Although I have been working from home for a year now, and I've also been enjoying that very much. So the second part I wanted to get into was my faith journey and my childhood. As I said, I'm the youngest of 5, and we were raised in the Catholic Church. I had 2 uncles who were priests, and I have a cousin who's a priest. We lived right beside the church. So if there were lights on in the church, we were there. And as I was writing this, a story came to mind. I remember it was one evening, it must have been in the winter, and we all had our pajamas on. And my mother looked out the window and saw the lights on in the church, you know, the beautiful stained glass windows. And she started to panic, you know, because something was going on at the church and we weren't there. And I remember her running to the kitchen, to the refrigerator where she always kept the church bulletin, you know, with a magnet on the side of the refrigerator. And we had forgotten it was a holy day and there was mass going on. And so we quickly put on high boots and put on our parkas right over our pajamas and, you know, trudged up the hill to church. But so, you know, the church was a big part of our life. And my mother was she was a very religious person. She, every evening around 7 o'clock, she would go upstairs to her room and close the door. And we all knew you did not knock on that door unless you were bleeding or something terrible was happening. You just did not knock on the door. That was her time. And my father really supported her in that. You know, he would always try to keep us, you know, quiet, mom's praying and things. But that was such a great example to me that she took that time for God every day. And even though I don't think she articulated divine love, but I feel that she had it because she had such a passion and such a love for God and Mary and Jesus. And I remember watching her in church sometimes when she would pray, and it was like she went to a different place. And so she was a great example. The Catholic faith for me was a good foundation. It probably kept me out of a lot of trouble. You know, the guilt sometimes I still struggle with as an adult with certain things, you know, because there's a lot of guilt in the Catholic faith, I feel. But it was a good foundation. One thing I did struggle with is we were never taught to listen to God. It was more you prayed and you said your novenas, you said your rosary, which are wonderful, and I still do sometimes, but we weren't taught to listen to what God's trying to tell us. Somehow I feel that it did get through, but now that I'm intentionally trying to listen more, I feel that more is coming through. As a child, I always felt close to the angels. I'm not sure I knew what they were. I thought everybody felt them, but as I get older, I feel that, you know, they were definitely around me. I'm definitely an empath, and as a child, I don't think I understood that either. You know, I kind of felt that it was more of a curse in my life, maybe, that I was so sensitive all the time. But now I see it more as a gift. I'm trying more and more to see that as a gift. I always felt energies and presences as a child. And once again, there was no one to talk to or try to understand what I was feeling. And in the Catholic faith, I feel like that was somewhat frowned upon. So I kind of just let it go, or buried it, or, didn't really pay much attention to it until I got older. But I still feel that way. I can go into a meeting and I feel the energies. I can go into an interview and feel the energies. I can go into a house and feel the energies. And so it's nice to have that back. But I do think about it as a childhood. It's like, yeah, I felt that way back when, but didn't know what it was. And I was always the shy one of the family. I was always the sensitive one, the shy one. And I remember hiding behind my mom's legs sometimes when people would come to the house. And looking back, sometimes I think, I'm not sure I was shy. Maybe I was, but I think I just felt people's energies so strongly and didn't know how to deal with them. Not that they were bad people or anything like that, but some people I was very comfortable around and some people I wasn't. I was very fortunate to go to college and have roommates that went to church with me and that believed in God, and we had a good time. But I think God kept me on that path and put them in my life to stay on the right path and not get into too much trouble in college. After getting married and starting a family, 4 kids and working and running them everywhere, I do feel like my faith and my prayer life went on autopilot a lot. There was just no time. There was always something going on. And looking back, sometimes I felt like I leaned on my mom a little bit too much. If somebody was having trouble, I'd call my mom up and say, so-and-so's, they're struggling. Can you please pray? Because we always felt like my mom had a direct line to God. If mom was praying, we were all good. And I think I did that a lot during those years, probably 20, 25 years. As my kids got older, I did feel a pull to get back to my faith. And I started getting up every morning at 5 o'clock because it's the only time I could find. And just meditating and praying. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. And it's gotten to the point where I just look forward to it. I just can't wait to go to bed so that I can get up and, spend my morning with God. Some days I'll wake up at 4 o'clock and it's like, I can't wait till 5. Let's just go. Let's just start the day and go. So yeah, I really like that. We attended the Catholic Church. We raised our children in the Catholic Church. They went through the Catholic school here in town, which is an amazing school. But about 7 or 8 years ago, when the scandals broke out in the Catholic Church, I really had a hard time attending. But we did, but it was, again, kind of on autopilot. And then about 3 years ago, when more came out about the cover-up and everything, I just stopped going. I told my husband, I can't go. I can't support this. And I don't want to get into all of that, but that's been hard for me because I miss the community of the church. We had a wonderful priest, and I really miss him too. And I just miss being in the church. I love being in a church. I always have. I remember as a child, if something was wrong or I was sad, I would just go up to the church and sit in there and just think or pray. And sometimes the church was, dark except for the flickering candles beside the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph. But I would just sit in there, and I always came out feeling better. Not even really sure how that happened or what I did or what God did, but I just came out feeling better. So I miss being in the church, and I don't know where that will go with me. I'm just praying for God to guide me. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll find a different church. Maybe I won't. I don't know, but I'm just letting that up to God at this point. So my third area that I wanted to talk about is what I feel was an awakening and my journey to divine love. and I will try to get through this without any tears, because that's just me. I'm a crier, but I'm going to do it. So 8 years ago, my mother passed away. She was 87, lived a beautiful life, had been sick for a long time. And, you know, my sisters and brothers and I, we took care of her. But after she passed away, I was a little surprised, I think, that I had such sadness, and just it really had a lot of grief and had trouble getting over her death. I got up every morning and just, you know, cried and pulled myself together and went to work and was happy and professional and got through the day. And then, you know, the next day, you know, I kind of did it again. And that went on for about 3 months, and I never really felt depression, but looking back, I was probably a little bit depressed during that time. And then I remember it was right before Christmas, which I was really dreading, because, you know, it was the first Christmas without my mother, and she was, you know, all about Christmas. She loved Christmas. And I came home from work that day, and it was just a bad night. You know, I don't want to say it was a dark night of the soul or anything like that. It certainly wasn't, you know, that bad, but I just kind of, you know, talked to God and said, you know, you got to help me here. Like, you just got to help me, because this is going on way too long. And I don't even know why I'm so upset. And I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next morning, and I just felt different. I felt lighter. I felt joyous. I felt like a veil that I always felt between God and I disappeared. And I got up that morning, and I put a big turkey in the oven for Christmas, because it was Christmas Eve that day. And I was happy. I was singing. Our children were there that afternoon. We exchanged gifts. We laughed. We played games. My family came for Christmas Eve. We went to Christmas Mass, and it was probably the best Christmas I think I've ever had. And that joy just stayed with me throughout the new year and after the new year. And I started thinking, like, what's going on? Like, I haven't cried at all. Like, you know, I'm just happy. And it was such a, like a light switch. And so I kept thinking it would come back. I kept thinking, oh, this is just like holiday something, but it never did. And I started having knowings, which at the time, I didn't even know what a knowing was. I started having synchronicities, which at the time, again, I didn't know what these were. So I started Googling, you know, awakening, what is this? Knowing, what is this? And I started to realize, yeah, that makes sense to me. I think that's what I went through. But yet I still couldn't find someone who could articulate what I went through or what I was feeling, until I read this book. And I don't know if anyone's read it. It's by Ann Voskamp. It's called 1,000 Gifts. And there's a sentence in this book that I just stopped. It just literally popped out on the page. And I'll read it to you because it spoke to me. It says, "That which tears open our souls, those holes that splatter our sight, may actually become the thin, open places to see through the mess of this place to the heart-aching beauty beyond, to God." And what I took from that was, you know, the grief made a hole in my heart, and that's how God got in. And I think after reading that book, I felt like I was just on some super highway to, I don't know, like a different awakening, I guess. I ordered and read every book I can find on near-death experience, on law of attraction, on tarot. I learned tarot cards. I learned all about anything I could find on angels. I took contemplative prayer classes. I mean, I was just like a different person. And God bless my husband, who supported me through all of that, because there were times when I thought he must think I'm just going off the deep end, because I was so passionate about all of this. And 8 years later, I still am. I really am. And then I found this group in our town. It was called Spirit Seekers, and I was a member of their group for about 3 years. It was similar to Divine Love. They spoke about divine love, but that wasn't the focus. They did have a person there who just passed away. Her name was Penny, who channeled Archangel Gabriel. And she wrote books, and the messages are very similar, but I don't want to compare because they were different. So I was doing this group for about 3 years. And then my sister Yvonne showed me, I believe it was Jeff's website or some of the messages, and I started to look at those. And I told her, I said, yeah, this is kind of what I'm learning here in my classes in town. And then she asked me if I wanted to go to the Myersdale retreat. And that's when my path with Divine Love and this group started. I attended the Myersdale retreat and thought, this is right up my alley. This is incredible. And I've just been learning, so much through this. I think Divine Love has changed me so much over the past year. It has made me a better person. It's made me kinder and softer. I'm more centered every day. I have tools. I know where to go when I'm having a crazy day to help me through it. But yeah, I'm just so honored, and I'm learning. Still have so much to learn, but I'm learning, and it's such a great family to be in, especially during all these trying times. So I think that's kind of the end of my story. I saw online yesterday, I was scrolling through something, and it was talking about countries who have public libraries where you can check out people to talk to. And you don't really check them out. You schedule interviews with them, and you listen to them tell their life story. So if you want to learn how to cook, you might want to talk to someone who's a chef, or if you want to learn about, Italian culture, you would see if there's somebody who could tell you their life story from Italy. And I thought, how wonderful is that? But that's kind of what we're doing here, so I think I just thought that was really interesting. And I think this is wonderful what you're doing.
Oh, we're so glad to have you as our guest today, Shirl. Thank you so much. That was an awesome story. And I love the mother connection. I had a similar experience with my mother. And so for you to tell that and your heartbreak when she left, and then how you suddenly were able to be in joy again, that's delightful to hear. Thank you.
And can I ask you, Shirl, did you, talking about your mother, and I agree with both of you. I had a mother who encouraged me to go to church, and I'll be forever grateful for all the people who kept me close to God, because I think that's the thing. If you lose God, sometimes it's difficult to get back. But can I ask you, did you actually ever have a discussion with your mother about her faith and how she prayed?
That's a good question. There were a lot of things my mother did not like to talk about, I think because of her background, growing up where she did at that time. So I think that instilled a great faith in her. And I think it was very personal to her. We grew up more, go to church, say your prayers. She talked about Jesus, and she talked about Mary, and how Mary had helped her through her life. So that was always going on. But deep about her faith, no, and boy, I wish I could get her back to ask so many questions. I do remember one time, and this was just maybe a year or two before she passed. My daughter was going through a rough time, and I went over to visit her. And, once again, I was calling upon Mom, can you call God and get some help here? And she made a comment to me that still sticks in my head. She said, you know, she said, I've been praying all my life. She said, it's your turn now. You know, you,
Oh.
and she didn't mean I'm not doing it way. She meant it in a, I'm kind of
Mm.
handing you the torch now.
Mm.
Yeah, get ready, because she's not going
Yeah.
to be here forever. She really lived her faith, it sounds like.
She did. I think she really did. She was very faithful to the Catholic faith.
Mhm.
Maybe to a fault in some ways, looking back. I'm not sure, but she.
It was her way. That's
It was. You're right. It was. It
that's
was.
my parents were very much that way. They,
And I think that is is a sign. It was that way at that time, wasn't it? If you followed a faith, you put everything into it, and in a way, that's a lot of that's gone, which is a shame. But I understand what you're saying, Shirl. I think as well, somebody who has got such a private that you, in many ways, you don't want to intrude, do you, on that, because it is so private.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I was really at a point to talk about that either, to bring it up. You know, I was busy.
No.
Maybe didn't question it as much as I do now. So.
Well, I was raised in the Catholic faith, and I sometimes go to church just to be in that environment of love and people who are trying. And it's not my way now, but I still like being among people of faith. Yeah. Yvonne, so how does
Did I
this all
just-
fit for you?
It's so beautiful. And there were so many parts of it that brought back so many memories and tears in my eyes. You know, um, but are there things from your traditional faith, from the Catholic faith, that you still feel you find value with today, walking more in divine love? You know, you said that you were still seeking a church, possibly, but you know, are there things that you feel still resonate with you today from your traditional Catholic upbringing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I said, it was a good foundation. And I just my relationship with the angels and with the saints and with Mary and Jesus. You know, I've kept that through as a constant the whole way. And the group that I was in here in town, I will say their focus wasn't on God. I mean, it was, and they talked about God, but that wasn't the focus. And many times that bothered me just because that's not where I came from. And so when I did find the Divine Love group, that's one thing I loved about it. I just felt like God is here, that the focus is on God. You know, Al channels Jesus and Mary and the different angels, and that just felt like home to me. So those parts of it, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I so totally agree with you, because I know that, you know, there are a lot of spiritual paths, and they talk about God, but they don't pray. It's not, God isn't a real figure in their life. And so that's so very true. Thank you for that.
So you talked about being an empath and how maybe you weren't shy as a child. Maybe you were picking up all the energy around you. And I do think that is the case. What advice would you have for parents? I'm always curious about people who have gone through that and are now adults and think back on it. What would have helped you as a child? Because we have many children like that now.
Yeah, I don't think my family was capable of that. You know what I mean? They didn't understand that either. So for me to have expected that from them, you know.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, I think
But if you had a child yourself now who was like that, a young child, what would you do to help them, knowing what you know?
Right.
What would you do to help that child survive the world a little better?
Yeah, just I think really just try to help them to be able to honor, their sensitivities and help them to be open to talk about what they're feeling and
Hmm.
to find, if you don't understand, to find someone who does and that can relate to their story. And there are a lot of children who are sensitive, and I think it's mislabeled a lot of times as just something easier, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, but to really listen and help them to learn to pray about it and to pray to God and ask for some guidance. And I took Maureen's Befriend the Soul class
Mhm.
at the end of last year, and that was just such a great tool for me to learn to dive into my soul and to learn about my soul and to get to know my soul. And I think if we could help children learn about their soul and, just be aware of it, know it's there for guidance and for help in anything that they need. That's not something that I knew.
Yeah. Mhm. Would that program be appropriate for children, do you think?
Maureen is just such an amazing teacher that
Yeah.
I think she could tweak it for children. Oh, I just think that would be amazing. Yeah. Or even parents of children to help them know how to
Oh,
help their
yeah.
children.
So parents who are listening, we want you to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Can I come back to this question often with faith journeys? Can I just ask you what gives you most joy in your life, Shirl?
mm, well, I think this past year of being, quarantined and dealing with the changes of the world and working from home has given probably everybody a lot more time to think about what's important in their life and what brings them joy, and that time is short and you need to do that. I would say my children and my grandchildren, just family. Family is just very important, and being together and spending time together and not stressful time together because you're overworked and overburdened with activities, but just meaningful time, going for a walk, baking cookies, just the simple things. I want to really take out of this world is to try to get back to the simple things and enjoying them, because they really are the important things. And of course, my relationship with God, because it has certainly grown a lot. And when all is said and done, even with your family, it's really you and God. So
Such great advice. Thank you. Yvonne, do you have any other questions of your dear sister? I do have one thing, Shirl. The quote was from the book called 1000, what? I think that,
1,000 Gifts
yes.
by
All
Anne
right.
Boskamp. Yeah. Yeah, I love her books. I think she's written 2 or 3 maybe. She writes how she thinks. So sometimes it's not easy to follow, but I love it. Some people don't like her writing because of that, but I follow right along because I'm probably a little scatterbrained like her too. But I just love her books. And the theme of the book is to write down 1,000 things that you're thankful for. And I did start a journal, I think in 2015 when I bought this book, of writing down things that I'm thankful for. And I think I'm on 900 and something. I put it away and then I get it back out. But it's interesting to go back and see what I was thankful for in 2015.
That's a lovely thing to do, though. I think we could all do with doing that. It's really
Yeah.
lovely.
And
And
I
they were
like
little,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
not necessarily, you know, big things, but like,
No.
you know, when you're washing the dishes, the way the soap bubble sparkles with the rainbow colors, like just all of those
Mm.
really beautiful things that we get so busy that we overlook all day long. Like,
Mm.
you know, that's really what the book is about. It's a good book.
It sounds like it. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing your story, for the good advice. We appreciate your being here. It's been lovely visiting. So we'll say
Thank you.
bye for now.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.